The grand ballroom was awash with the warm, golden glow of chandeliers. The glittering lights reflected off the polished marble floors, casting intricate patterns across the crowd. The hum of polite conversation mingled with the soft strains of a string quartet, creating an atmosphere of elegant refinement. As Ethan Clark, the renowned football star, made his entrance, a ripple of admiration followed him. His tailored suit was impeccable, and his smile radiated confidence. Tonight was a charity gala, a night to celebrate and give back. Ethan was a familiar face in these circles, his presence a testament to his commitment to philanthropy. Ethan navigated through the sea of well-dressed guests, exchanging pleasantries and graciously accepting compliments. His eyes, however, were drawn to a corner of the room where a small, unassuming table stood. Seated there was a woman and a child, both looking out of place amidst the opulence. Clara sat hunched over, her eyes darting nervously around the room. The child, Lily, nestled in her lap, clung to her with a sense of comfort. Clara's clothes were worn and faded, a stark contrast to the gleaming attire of the gala's attendees. Her face, though tired, carried a quiet resilience. Ethan's gaze lingered on them for a moment. There was something compelling about their presence, a stark juxtaposition to the extravagance surrounding them. Driven by an impulse he couldn't quite define, Ethan approached their table. "Good evening," he said, his voice gentle yet commanding attention. Clara looked up, startled by the attention. Her eyes met his, a mixture of hope and apprehension reflecting in their depths. "Good evening," Clara replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan took a seat across from them, his gaze shifting to Lily, who peeked out shyly from behind her mother. "Is everything all right? I couldn't help but notice you two here, out of place amid all this grandeur." Clara hesitated, her fingers tightening around Lily. "We're just passing through," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "We were hoping to find a place to rest for the night." Ethan's heart sank. The disparity between their situation and the celebration around them was jarring. He looked around the room, seeing the extravagance that felt so hollow compared to the genuine need before him. Without thinking, Ethan stood and gestured for Clara to follow. "Come with me," he said. "I think we might be able to find a more comfortable place for you." Clara's eyes widened in surprise and uncertainty. She glanced at Lily, who looked up at Ethan with a mixture of curiosity and trust. Slowly, she rose to her feet, her movements hesitant but hopeful. Ethan led them through the grand halls of the mansion, away from the vibrant party and into a quieter, more secluded part of the estate. The opulence of the gala was replaced by a serene, almost intimate atmosphere. As they walked, Ethan couldn't help but wonder about the lives of these two strangers. What circumstances had led them to this place? And why did their plight feel so urgent to him tonight? He guided them to a cozy lounge area, far removed from the eyes of the party guests. Comfortable seating and a soft, warm light greeted them, offering a stark contrast to the cold, formal setting of the gala. "Please make yourselves comfortable," Ethan said, motioning to the plush chairs. Clara and Lily settled into the seats, their demeanor slowly relaxing as the tension of the evening began to dissipate. Ethan took a seat opposite them, his gaze steady but kind. "I know it's not much, but it's a bit more peaceful here. I'd like to help if I can. Is there anything specific you need?" Clara's eyes filled with tears, and she struggled to keep her composure. "Thank you," she managed to say. "We didn't expect this kind of kindness tonight." Ethan nodded, a sense of purpose filling him. As the evening wore on, the sounds of the gala became a distant murmur, replaced by the more intimate conversation taking place in this quiet corner. The evening had taken an unexpected turn, one that would set the stage for revelations yet to come. As Clara and Lily began to share their story, Ethan listened intently, his heart heavy with the weight of their reality. The night had transformed from a celebration of wealth to an unexpected journey into the heart of generosity and compassion. This encounter was just the beginning, and Ethan knew that the path ahead would challenge his perceptions and redefine his understanding of success and fulfillment. The following morning was crisp and clear, with sunlight streaming through the large windows of Ethan Clarke's mansion. The room where Clara and Lily had spent the night was a sanctuary of comfort compared to the harshness of the previous evening. The warmth of the room seemed to wrap around them like a gentle embrace, and the soft rustling of the curtains in the breeze added a touch of tranquility. Ethan had arranged a small breakfast for them, freshly baked pastries, fruit, and a pot of steaming coffee. Clara and Lily sat at the table, their eyes wide with a mix of wonder and unease as they took in their surroundings. Lily's small hands reached for a croissant, her face lighting up with delight at the simple pleasure of the sweet, flaky pastry. "Thank you for this," Clara said quietly, her voice laced with gratitude and disbelief. "We haven't had a meal like this in a long time." Ethan, who had been observing from a distance, approached the table with a warm smile. "I'm glad you're comfortable. I wanted to make sure you felt at home, even if just for a short while." As they ate, Ethan took the opportunity to engage in conversation, gently probing into Clara's background. She shared bits of her story, her struggles, her hopes, and her dreams for Lily. Ethan listened intently, his eyes never leaving her as he absorbed the gravity of their situation. The more Clara spoke, the more Ethan felt a pang of empathy. Her story was one of resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. She spoke of a life on the streets, of sleepless nights and uncertain tomorrows. Yet, amidst the hardship, there was an enduring love for her daughter and a fierce determination to build a better future for her. When breakfast ended, Ethan invited Clara to take a tour of the mansion. As they walked through the lavish rooms and expansive hallways, Clara's awe was palpable. Her fingers lightly brushed against the grandiose furnishings, as if afraid to disturb the luxury that surrounded her. "This is incredible," Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've never seen anything like this." Ethan smiled, though a hint of sadness touched his eyes. "It's a beautiful place, but it's not just about the material things. I want you to feel welcome here, to find some peace and comfort." They reached a cozy study, filled with books and a large window overlooking the garden. Ethan gestured for Clara to sit, and she did, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of fascination and skepticism. Lily explored the space with wide-eyed curiosity, captivated by the colorful array of children's books and plush toys that Ethan had placed there for her. Clara looked up at Ethan, her expression serious. "Why are you doing this for us? You don't even know us." Ethan took a seat across from her, his gaze steady. "Sometimes, it's the unexpected encounters that make us rethink our own lives. I saw something in you and Lily that made me want to help. Maybe, in doing so, I can understand more about what truly matters." The afternoon passed slowly, with Ethan spending time with Clara and Lily, showing them more of the mansion and offering a glimpse into his own world. As they talked, Ethan began to realize the depth of the impact this experience was having on him. The luxury that had once seemed like an ultimate goal now felt less significant compared to the genuine human connection he was forming with Clara and Lily. As evening approached, Ethan made arrangements for Clara and Lily to stay in a guest suite, designed to offer them privacy and comfort. The room was elegantly furnished, with soft lighting and a plush bed. Clara gazed around, overwhelmed by the generosity and thoughtfulness of Ethan's gesture. "I don't know how to thank you," Clara said, her voice choked with emotion. "This means more to us than words can express." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You don't need to thank me. Just being here and sharing your story has already given me more than I expected." As Clara and Lily settled into their new space, Ethan retreated to his own quarters, his mind racing with the revelations of the day. The opulence of his surroundings felt strangely hollow compared to the warmth and authenticity he had witnessed. The encounter with Clara and Lily had ignited a spark of introspection, challenging Ethan's understanding of success and fulfillment. The transition from a life of material wealth to a journey of personal discovery had begun, and Ethan knew that the days ahead would force him to confront his own beliefs and redefine what truly mattered. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft, golden glow over Ethan Clarke's estate. The vast grounds, now bathed in the gentle hues of twilight, offered a serene contrast to the bustling life of the city beyond the estate's walls. Inside, the mansion exuded a quiet elegance, the air filled with the faint aroma of lavender from freshly cut flowers. Clara and Lily had spent the day exploring their new surroundings, adjusting to the comfort and luxury that was so alien to them. Ethan had watched from a distance, his thoughts consumed by the conversation they had shared and the growing bond between them. As evening settled in, Ethan invited Clara to join him for a quiet dinner in the dining room. The table was set with fine china and crystal glasses, but tonight, the atmosphere was far more relaxed. Ethan hoped to create an environment where Clara might feel comfortable enough to share more about her past. Clara arrived with Lily in tow, her demeanor a blend of curiosity and caution. The child was nestled in her arms, her eyes sleepy but filled with a sense of contentment. Ethan gestured for Clara to sit, and he took his place across from her. "Please make yourself at home," Ethan said warmly. "Tonight is just about us talking and getting to know each other better." Clara nodded, her gaze shifting around the room. "It's very kind of you," she replied softly. "I must admit, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all this." As the meal began, Ethan gently steered the conversation towards Clara's past. "I've been thinking a lot about what you told me," he said. "If you're comfortable, I'd like to hear more about how you ended up in such a difficult situation." Clara's fingers tightened around her fork, and she took a deep breath. "It's not an easy story to tell," she began, her voice tinged with sadness. "But I think it's important for you to understand." She looked down at Lily, who had fallen asleep in her lap. With a tender smile, Clara began recounting her story, her voice steady despite the emotions it stirred. "Several years ago, I was married," Clara started. "My husband and I had a modest but comfortable life. We were happy, and our daughter was our joy. But everything changed when my husband lost his job. The bills piled up, and soon we were struggling to make ends meet." Ethan listened intently, his expression somber. Clara's story unfolded with the weight of hardship and loss. She spoke of the gradual decline from stability to desperation, her struggles to find work and provide for her family while facing the harsh realities of a collapsing marriage. "I did everything I could," Clara continued, her voice trembling. "But one misfortune after another pushed us further into debt. Eventually, we lost our home, and my husband left us. I was left to fend for myself and Lily." Ethan's heart ached as Clara spoke of her relentless efforts to survive, her days filled with uncertainty and her nights consumed by worry. The challenges she faced seemed almost insurmountable, yet her strength and determination shone through her words. "There were moments when I didn't know how we would get through the day," Clara said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But I kept going for Lily. She's my reason for everything." Ethan reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand on Clara's. "I can't imagine how difficult this has been for you. Thank you for trusting me with your story." Clara gave a small nod, her expression a mixture of relief and weariness. "There's more," she said quietly. "Something I haven't shared yet. It's something that connects my past with yours in a way you might not expect." Ethan's curiosity was piqued. "What do you mean?" Clara hesitated, taking a deep breath before continuing. "My husband, he worked for a company that was involved in a major project some years ago. A project that had connections to your family's business. I never thought much of it at the time, but now, looking back, I wonder if there's a link between our lives." Ethan's mind raced as he processed Clara's revelation. The idea that their lives might be intertwined through a shared connection was both surprising and unsettling. He thought of the high-profile business ventures his family had been involved in, the intricate web of connections that seemed to define their world. As Clara finished her story, the silence between them was heavy with unspoken thoughts. Ethan sat back, his mind grappling with the implications of what he had just learned. The connection between their pasts was more than just coincidental. It was a thread that wove their lives together in unexpected ways. The evening concluded with a sense of quiet contemplation. Ethan walked Clara and Lily to their suite, his thoughts preoccupied with the revelations of the night. The elegant mansion, once a symbol of his success, now felt like a backdrop to a more profound journey of discovery and connection. As the door closed behind them, Ethan stood alone in the hallway, the weight of Clara's story pressing upon him. The journey that had begun with a simple act of kindness was evolving into a deeper exploration of fate, family, and the true meaning of success. The night was far from over, and Ethan knew that the days ahead would be filled with revelations that would challenge his understanding of his own life and values. The morning light crept through the heavy curtains of Ethan's bedroom, casting long shadows across the room. The opulence of the space felt muted in the soft, early light, as if the grandeur was not quite enough to dispel the weight of the thoughts that occupied Ethan's mind. Ethan had barely slept. The connection Clara had revealed, linking her past to his family's business, gnawed at him like a persistent shadow. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor, his mind racing through memories and unanswered questions. The mansion was unusually quiet as Ethan made his way to the study, the room where he often sought solace. He poured himself a cup of coffee, though the warmth of the drink did little to chase away the cold unease that had settled over him. His reflection in the window pane was a stark contrast to the confident public persona he projected. The man looking back at him was deeply troubled, struggling with the implications of Clara's revelation. The past and present seemed to collide in a tangled web of responsibility and unresolved issues. As he sipped his coffee, Ethan replayed the conversation from the previous evening. Clara's words about her husband's connection to his family's business echoed in his mind. Was there more to the story? How deep did the connection go? And what did it mean for him? He was jolted from his thoughts by a knock at the door. It was one of the mansion's staff, delivering a stack of paperwork. Ethan managed a distracted smile and nodded, taking the documents without much thought. As the staff member left, Ethan sat down at his desk, his gaze fixed on the papers in front of him. Yet, his mind was far from the tasks at hand. The papers were part of a high-profile charity initiative Ethan's family was deeply involved in. On the surface, it was a noble cause, fundraising for various social issues. But the recent revelations had cast a shadow over his perception of this work. Was this truly making a difference, or was it merely a facade of generosity, masking the realities of their privileged world? Ethan's phone buzzed, snapping him further from his reverie. It was a message from his business manager, reminding him of a crucial meeting later that day. With a sigh, he set the phone aside and leaned back in his chair. The weight of his responsibilities pressed heavily upon him. Determined to find clarity, Ethan decided to spend some time with Clara and Lily. Perhaps understanding their situation better could offer him some perspective and guidance. He found Clara and Lily in the garden, where they were enjoying a rare moment of peace. The vibrant colors of the flowers and the gentle rustling of the leaves created a serene backdrop, contrasting sharply with Ethan's inner turmoil. "Good morning," Ethan greeted them, forcing a warm smile. Clara looked up, her eyes still carrying traces of fatigue but softened by the tranquility of the garden. "Good morning," Clara replied, her voice carrying a note of cautious optimism. Lily, sitting on a blanket with her toys, looked up at Ethan with innocent curiosity. "I was thinking of taking you both on a little tour of the estate," Ethan said. "Maybe the fresh air and change of scenery will be good for all of us." As they walked through the lush gardens, Ethan made an effort to engage Clara in light conversation. He asked about her favorite flowers, about the memories she had of her past before everything had changed. Clara's responses were reflective, her eyes occasionally drifting to Lily, who was happily exploring the surroundings. Ethan found himself increasingly drawn to Clara's resilience and the genuine love she had for her daughter. The simplicity of their needs and their ability to find joy in small things were sharply contrasted with his own complicated life. It was both humbling and unsettling. They reached a quiet corner of the estate, where a small pond glistened in the morning sun. Ethan gestured for Clara to sit on a nearby bench, and they took a moment to rest. Clara looked at Ethan, sensing that something was troubling him. "You seem deep in thought," she said gently. "Is everything all right?" Ethan took a deep breath, his thoughts swirling. "It's just, everything you've shared with me has made me question a lot of things. The connection between our pasts. It's making me rethink everything I thought I knew about my own life and the work I do." Clara nodded, her expression understanding. Sometimes, the hardest part is reconciling what we've achieved with what we've left behind or the impact we've had on others. Ethan looked out at the pond, the water shimmering in the sunlight. I've always been driven by success, by the need to make a difference in the world. But now, I'm starting to see that maybe I've been missing something important. Clara's gaze was steady. Sometimes, it takes a moment like this to make us see things differently. It's not always about the grand gestures, but about the small acts of kindness and the connections we make along the way. Ethan felt a surge of gratitude for Clara's words. They were a beacon of clarity amidst the fog of his doubts. As they continued their walk, the weight of his internal conflict seemed to lift, if only slightly. The journey he was on was far from over, but the path forward was beginning to take shape. The day wore on, and Ethan found himself more at ease, though the questions remained. The journey of self-discovery and reevaluation was just beginning, and Ethan knew that the path ahead would be both challenging and enlightening. The transformation that had started with a simple act of kindness was evolving into a profound exploration of his own beliefs and values. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the estate's sprawling grounds. Ethan Clark paced the study, his mind a storm of conflicting thoughts and emotions. The tranquil morning walk with Clara had provided a brief respite, but now the weight of his inner turmoil felt heavier than ever. He stopped by the large window, gazing out at the manicured lawns and the distant hills. The peaceful view was a stark contrast to the storm brewing within him. His thoughts were consumed by Clara's revelation, the connection between her past and his family's business. It was a thread that seemed to unravel the very fabric of his understanding of his own life and achievements. The sudden chime of his phone startled him. It was a message from his business manager, reminding him of an urgent meeting with the charity board. Ethan took a deep breath, knowing he had to face this meeting despite the turmoil inside him. He needed to clear his mind and focus on the present, if only for a while. As he arrived at the charity's office, the atmosphere was buzzing with activity. Volunteers and staff members hurried about, preparing for an upcoming fundraising event. Ethan greeted a few familiar faces, exchanging polite pleasantries, but his mind was elsewhere. The meeting room was a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows. Ethan took his seat at the head of the table, his colleagues filing in and taking their places. As the meeting commenced, Ethan found it increasingly difficult to concentrate on the discussions. The charitable initiatives, while important, seemed distant and disconnected from the pressing concerns gnawing at him. The board members discussed strategies for upcoming events, focusing on fundraising goals and outreach efforts. Ethan nodded and contributed when necessary, but his responses were mechanical. His mind kept drifting back to Clara and her story, the secrets she had revealed, and the uneasy connection to his own family's business. As the meeting progressed, Ethan's frustration grew. He realized that despite the significant resources at his disposal, the genuine impact of their charitable work was overshadowed by his internal conflict. The realization was jarring. The facade of success and philanthropy could not mask the dissonance between his public image and his private doubts. After the meeting, Ethan lingered in the office, his thoughts swirling. He decided to visit Clara and Lily, seeking solace in their presence. The mansion, once a symbol of his success, now felt like a place of introspection and revelation. He found Clara in the library, surrounded by shelves of books. She was seated at a small table, reading a children's book to Lily, who was enthralled by the colorful illustrations. The sight was heartwarming and jarring in its contrast to Ethan's current state of mind. "Hey!" Ethan said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. Clara looked up, her eyes filled with warmth. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," Clara replied, setting the book aside. "We were just enjoying some quiet time. Is everything all right?" Ethan took a seat across from her, his gaze fixed on Lily, who had resumed playing with her toys. "I've been thinking a lot about what you told me. It's hard to reconcile what I've learned with the life I've been leading." Clara's expression grew serious. The truth can be a heavy burden. It has a way of challenging our perceptions and forcing us to confront uncomfortable realities. Ethan nodded, his gaze drifting to the fireplace where a soft fire crackled. "I've always prided myself on making a difference through my work. But now, I'm questioning if it's truly making an impact or if it's just a veneer of success." Clara's eyes met his, her gaze steady and understanding. Sometimes, the truth reveals that we need to look deeper. It's not just about the grand gestures, but about the real connections and changes we make in people's lives. Ethan sighed, feeling the weight of her words. "I've been so focused on maintaining a certain image and achieving success that I've lost sight of what really matters." Clara leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "It's never too late to reevaluate your path. The choices you make now can redefine your impact and bring true meaning to your work." As they spoke, Ethan felt a flicker of clarity amidst the confusion. Clara's words resonated deeply, offering him a sense of direction. The truth he was grappling with was not just about his family's connections, but about his own values and priorities. The conversation shifted as Lily tugged at Clara's sleeve, her eyes wide with curiosity. Ethan watched the interaction, a mix of admiration and introspection on his face. The simplicity and purity of Lily's world stood in stark contrast to the complexities of his own. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of determination. "Thank you for your honesty. I need to take a step back and reconsider what I want to achieve with my life and work. It's time to find a balance between success and genuine impact." Clara smiled, her eyes reflecting understanding. "I believe you'll find the clarity you're seeking. Sometimes, it's through our struggles and revelations that we discover our true purpose." As the evening approached, Ethan felt a sense of resolve. The weight of the truth was still present, but it no longer felt like an insurmountable burden. Instead, it was a catalyst for change, urging him to reevaluate his path and align his actions with his values. The mansion, with its grandeur and comfort, was now a backdrop to a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Ethan knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to confront the truths that lay ahead and embrace the opportunity for genuine growth and impact. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity and introspection for Ethan Clark. The quiet moments of reflection he had with Clara seemed a distant memory as the demands of his role and the mounting pressures of his responsibilities began to weigh heavily upon him. His focus was now sharply honed on reconciling his newfound awareness with the reality of his life and work. The morning light pierced through the large windows of Ethan's office, casting intricate patterns on the polished floor. He sat at his desk, surrounded by stacks of paperwork, his mind racing as he reviewed reports and documents. Despite the meticulous organization of his office, the chaos within felt far less manageable. Each document was a reminder of the weight of his decisions, and the dissonance between his professional obligations and his personal revelations grew more pronounced with each passing day. The charity gala was approaching rapidly, a high-profile event that demanded Ethan's attention and, by extension, highlighted the contrast between the public face he presented and his internal struggles. His staff was buzzing with preparations, and Ethan was expected to be the linchpin of the event. However, the mere thought of it was becoming increasingly daunting. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. His assistant, Sarah, entered with a stack of briefing papers and a concerned look. "Ethan, I know you've got a lot on your plate, but we need to finalize the speeches and the event schedule today." Ethan nodded absently, accepting the papers. He glanced through the documents, but his focus was fragmented. The upcoming gala seemed to symbolize the very facade he was questioning. An extravagant display meant to mask deeper truths. He couldn't help but wonder if it was just another layer in a complex veneer, designed to project success and benevolence while hiding the real issues. Later that afternoon, Ethan met with his team to discuss the gala's logistics. The conference room was a hive of activity, with staff members debating seating arrangements, catering details, and entertainment options. Ethan struggled to maintain his composure, the weight of his internal conflict seeping into his interactions. His responses were curt, his patience thin. As the meeting dragged on, Ethan's frustration mounted. The meticulous plans and grand gestures seemed hollow in the face of his personal revelations. The conversation became increasingly strained, with Ethan's team growing visibly uncomfortable. His irritation was not lost on them, and the atmosphere in the room grew tense. "Look," Ethan said abruptly, "I understand the importance of this event, but it's hard for me to focus on these details when I'm struggling with more fundamental questions about what we're doing here." His comments hung in the air, and a heavy silence followed. Sarah cleared her throat, trying to break the tension. "Maybe it would help to take a step back and revisit our goals for the event. What are we really trying to achieve?" Ethan looked around the room, seeing the concern in his team's eyes. He realized that his internal conflict was affecting not just him but those around him. "You're right," he said, his voice softer. "Let's refocus on the core of what we're trying to accomplish. We need to ensure that this event aligns with our true values and not just our public image." With renewed resolve, Ethan threw himself into the gala preparations with a fresh perspective. He began to see the event not as a spectacle but as an opportunity to make a meaningful impact. He worked closely with his team, revising plans and incorporating elements that would genuinely benefit the causes they were supporting. Amidst the flurry of activity, Ethan found a surprising source of comfort in Clara's ongoing presence. She and Lily had become regular visitors to the mansion, bringing a sense of normalcy and grounding. Their interactions with Ethan were marked by a quiet understanding, as if Clara's presence served as a gentle reminder of the values he was striving to reclaim. One evening, after a long day of preparations, Ethan found himself in the garden with Clara. They sat on a bench, watching Lily chase after fireflies in the twilight. The scene was peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos of his thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about what we're doing," Ethan said, his voice thoughtful. "This gala, these events. It's easy to get lost in the details and forget why we started." Clara nodded, her gaze fixed on Lily. "It's important to remember the impact you want to make. It's not about the grandeur or the recognition, but about the real difference you can create in people's lives." Ethan sighed, feeling a weight lift slightly from his shoulders. "I'm beginning to see that. The challenges I'm facing are pushing me to confront what truly matters. It's not just about the public image, but about making a genuine difference." The conversation marked a turning point for Ethan. As he continued to navigate the complexities of his role, he began to view the gala and his work through a new lens. The rising challenges were no longer just obstacles but opportunities to realign his efforts with his newfound understanding. The day of the gala arrived with a sense of anticipation and nervous energy. The mansion was transformed into a dazzling venue, filled with guests and festivities. Ethan mingled with attendees, his interactions marked by a newfound sincerity. The event was a success, not just in terms of fundraising but also in its ability to convey a message of genuine commitment. As the night drew to a close and the guests began to depart, Ethan felt a sense of accomplishment. The challenges he had faced had not been vanquished but had transformed into a catalyst for growth and realignment. The gala had been more than just a showcase of success. It had been a reflection of his journey toward meaningful change. Ethan looked out over the estate, the night sky illuminated by twinkling lights. The path ahead was still uncertain, but he felt more equipped to face it with clarity and purpose. The rising challenges had become stepping stones in his journey of self-discovery, guiding him toward a more authentic and impactful future. The evening of the charity gala had been a whirlwind of success and emotional intensity. The grand halls of the mansion had resonated with laughter, conversation, and the clinking of glasses. But for Ethan Clark, the night was marked by an undercurrent of unease. The event had gone off without a hitch, but his mind was far from settled. The nagging questions about his family's past and Clara's connection to it refused to leave him. The day after the gala, Ethan awoke early, unable to shake the feeling that something significant was imminent. The mansion was still, the remnants of the previous night's celebration being cleared away. Ethan felt a profound sense of quiet, broken only by the distant sounds of staff preparing for the day. He knew he needed answers, not just for his own peace of mind but for the future he was beginning to envision. He decided to visit Clara. He had promised himself that he would approach their conversations with renewed openness, ready to face whatever truths lay hidden. The drive to Clara's modest apartment was unusually quiet, the cityscape blurring past him as his thoughts raced. Clara was at home, her apartment filled with the comforting clutter of everyday life. Children's toys scattered across the floor, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee in the air. She greeted Ethan with a warm, if slightly tired, smile. "Good morning, Ethan. What brings you here so early?" Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his intentions. "I need to talk to you about something important. It's about your past and how it relates to my family." Clara nodded, leading him to the small dining table where she had been working on some paperwork. Lily was napping peacefully in a nearby crib, her tiny form nestled under a soft blanket. Ethan took a seat, his eyes searching Clara's face for any sign of hesitation. "I've been struggling to reconcile everything I've learned about you with what I know about my family's history. I need to understand the full picture." Clara's expression grew serious. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder, her hands trembling slightly. "There's something I've been meaning to show you. It's about my past, about how it intersects with your family's history." With a practiced but nervous gesture, Clara opened the folder, revealing a collection of documents, photographs, and old newspaper clippings. Ethan leaned in, his eyes scanning the contents. The photographs depicted scenes from a past era, events, gatherings, and individuals who seemed familiar, yet distant. Clara's voice was steady but filled with emotion. "These documents trace my family's history and its connection to yours. My parents were involved in a charity that collaborated with your family's foundation many years ago. There were promises made, but not all of them were kept. My father was deeply hurt when those promises fell through." Ethan's heart raced as he looked through the papers. There were records of donations and correspondence, some signed by his own father. The connections were undeniable, and the implications were staggering. "Are you saying that your family was wronged by mine?" Clara nodded, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "Yes, there were financial commitments that were never fulfilled. My father's health deteriorated, and my family fell into hardship. We were left struggling while the charity we depended on failed to uphold its promises." Ethan's mind whirled with the gravity of this revelation. He had always been proud of his family's charitable endeavors, seeing them as a cornerstone of their legacy. The idea that these actions could have led to suffering was jarring. Clara continued, her voice trembling. "I never wanted to bring this up, but now I see that knowing the truth is crucial. I needed you to understand the full impact of your family's actions." Ethan sat in stunned silence, the weight of Clara's words sinking in. He felt a profound sense of guilt and responsibility. "I had no idea. I wish I had known earlier. I'm sorry for the pain my family's actions caused." Clara reached across the table, placing a comforting hand on Ethan's. "I'm not blaming you personally. I wanted you to know the truth so we can move forward. It's about understanding and making amends." Ethan nodded, his resolve strengthening. "I want to make things right. I need to find a way to address this, to ensure that we correct the mistakes of the past and make a positive impact moving forward." The conversation continued, with Ethan and Clara discussing potential ways to address the past grievances. They spoke of creating a new charitable initiative, one that would honor the promises made and offer support to those who had been wronged. As Ethan left Clara's apartment, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The revelation had been a heavy blow, but it also provided a clear direction for his efforts. He knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to face it with clarity and determination. The day was bright, the sunlight casting a hopeful glow over the city. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past but also the promise of a future where he could make a genuine difference. The journey ahead was uncertain, but the revelation had given him a powerful motivation to pursue a path of truth and reconciliation. With each step he took, Ethan felt more prepared to confront the challenges that lay ahead, knowing that his actions could help heal old wounds and forge a new path toward a more meaningful and impactful future. The days following Ethan's revelation with Clara were fraught with tension and determination. The weight of his family's past missteps bore down on him, and the sense of urgency to make amends grew stronger with each passing hour. Ethan knew that confronting the issue head-on was the only way to move forward, but the path was fraught with potential conflict. The first step in this daunting journey was to confront his father, William Clark, the patriarch of the family. Ethan had always admired his father's strength and decisiveness, but now he felt a profound need to confront the man whose actions had led to so much suffering. The confrontation was inevitable, and the tension between father and son had never been so palpable. The evening was quiet when Ethan arrived at his parents' home. The mansion, with its imposing facade and elegant architecture, seemed almost too grand for the confrontation he was about to face. As he entered, the opulent surroundings contrasted starkly with the turmoil within him. William Clark was in his study, a room lined with shelves of books and awards. He looked up from his desk as Ethan entered, a mixture of surprise and curiosity on his face. "Ethan, what brings you here?" Ethan swallowed hard, trying to steady his voice. "Dad, we need to talk. It's about the charity's past dealings and the promises that were never kept." William's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. He gestured for Ethan to sit. "I assume this is about Clara and her family?" Ethan nodded, his eyes meeting his father's. "Yes, I've learned about the hardships your decisions have caused. Clara's family suffered because of the unfulfilled commitments." The room seemed to shrink around them, the weight of Ethan's words hanging heavy in the air. William's face grew serious, his usually composed demeanor faltering. "I had no idea that the promises we made had such consequences." Ethan felt a pang of frustration but forced himself to remain calm. "You didn't know because it was kept from you. But now that you're aware, we need to address this. We can't just ignore it and move on." William leaned back in his chair, his expression troubled. "What do you propose we do?" Ethan took a deep breath, presenting a clear plan he had been formulating. "We need to make reparations. We should set up a fund to help those who were affected by these broken promises. It's the least we can do to make amends." William looked contemplative, his gaze distant. "It's not going to be easy. It will require significant resources and a shift in our priorities." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'm aware, but we have to start somewhere. If we want to truly correct the wrongs of the past, we need to take concrete steps. This is about integrity and responsibility." The conversation was intense, but it also marked the beginning of a crucial shift in Ethan's approach to his family's legacy. William's initial resistance gave way to a reluctant acceptance. "All right, Ethan, if you're committed to this, I'll support you. We'll figure out a way to make it work." The decision was made, but the road ahead was still fraught with challenges. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as Ethan and his father worked together to establish the fund and begin outreach to those affected. The task was monumental, involving negotiations, legal considerations, and an intense public relations campaign to manage the fallout from the revelations. Ethan felt the strain of the effort, but there was also a sense of purpose driving him forward. Each meeting and decision brought him closer to a resolution, even as it pushed him further into the spotlight. The media coverage was relentless, with headlines both praising and criticizing the Clark family's newfound commitment to reparations. Amidst the chaos, Ethan's relationship with Clara continued to grow. They worked together to ensure that the fund would genuinely meet the needs of those affected, and their collaboration became a source of mutual support. Clara's input was invaluable, and her insights helped shape the fund's initiatives in meaningful ways. One evening, as Ethan reviewed final details for an upcoming press conference, Clara visited him at the mansion. They sat together in the garden, the setting sun casting a warm glow over their conversation. "I've been thinking about everything we've accomplished," Clara said softly. "It's been a challenging journey, but seeing the changes we're making is encouraging." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and exhaustion. "It is, but there's still so much more to do. I want to make sure that this isn't just a temporary fix but a lasting commitment." Clara smiled, her eyes reflecting both pride and understanding. "It will be. As long as we stay true to our intentions and continue to listen to those who need help, we can make a real difference." Their discussion was a moment of calm amidst the storm of their efforts. The challenges were far from over, but Ethan felt a renewed sense of resolve. The confrontation with his father had been a pivotal step, and the decisions that followed were shaping a new direction for the Clark family legacy. As the night fell and the stars began to emerge, Ethan knew that the path ahead would continue to be difficult. But with Clara's support and his father's reluctant backing, he felt more equipped to face the future. The confrontation had been a crucial turning point, and the decisions made in its wake were setting the stage for a transformative journey toward redemption and reconciliation. The weight of recent decisions hung heavy over Ethan as he prepared for the press conference that would announce the Clark family's new fund for reparations. The bright lights and flashing cameras that once symbolized success now felt like an invasive spotlight on his deepest anxieties. The mansion was eerily quiet in the early hours of the morning, the sense of impending scrutiny palpable in every corner. Ethan walked through the grand hallways of his home, the echoes of his footsteps a haunting reminder of the gravity of his actions. His thoughts were a turbulent storm, each wave crashing against the foundations of his resolve. The media frenzy was reaching fever pitch, with constant coverage and sharp criticisms flaring up in the wake of the fund's announcement. As he arrived at the press conference venue, the tension was almost unbearable. The room was filled with journalists, their eager voices creating a buzz of anticipation. Ethan took a deep breath, bracing himself for the storm of questions that would undoubtedly follow. The press conference began, and Ethan took his place at the podium, his face a mask of composure despite the turmoil within. The questions came fast and furious, each one probing deeper into the Clark family's motivations and the effectiveness of their proposed fund. The scrutiny was relentless, and Ethan struggled to maintain his calm as he answered each question. "Mr. Clark, how do you justify the delay in addressing these issues? What makes you believe this fund will make a difference? Given the magnitude of the past mistakes, how can you ensure that this is not just a publicity stunt?" Ethan's responses were measured but increasingly strained. He spoke of accountability, the need for reparations, and his personal commitment to making things right. But despite his efforts, the weight of public skepticism was palpable, and the pressure of the moment was suffocating. In the midst of the conference, a breaking news alert flashed across screens, bringing with it a devastating update. A major investigative report had just been released, detailing further discrepancies and financial mismanagement related to the Clark family's charity. The report's implications were severe, painting a picture of systemic failures and broken promises far worse than anyone had anticipated. Ethan's heart sank as he absorbed the news. The report was a devastating blow to everything he had worked so hard to rebuild. His father's face, normally so composed, was now etched with a mix of frustration and defeat. The room buzzed with shocked murmurs, and the media's focus shifted entirely to the new scandal. The press conference ended in chaos, with reporters scrambling for statements and clarification. Ethan felt a crushing sense of despair as he retreated to his office, the walls closing in around him. The sense of public humiliation was overwhelming, and the vision of redemption he had been working toward seemed to crumble before his eyes. Alone in his office, Ethan sank into a chair, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. The room felt oppressive, the silence deafening. The revelations of the investigative report were a harsh reminder of how far the damage had spread and how difficult it would be to address it all. Clara arrived at the mansion later that evening, her concern evident in her expression. She had been following the news and knew how devastating the report had been. She found Ethan in his office, his face pale and his eyes hollow. "Ethan," Clara said softly, stepping into the room, "I saw the report. I'm so sorry. This is a setback, but we need to stay focused." Ethan looked up at her, his gaze filled with a mixture of frustration and hopelessness. "How can we overcome this? It feels like everything we've worked for is falling apart." Clara walked over and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "This is a setback, yes, but it's not the end. We've faced challenges before, and we can face this one too. We need to regroup, address the issues head-on, and show that we're committed to making real changes." Ethan shook his head, his voice cracking with emotion. "I don't even know where to start. The damage is so extensive. How do we repair this?" Clara's eyes were filled with determination as she spoke. "We start by acknowledging the issues openly and transparently. We need to demonstrate our commitment to accountability and reform. It won't be easy, but it's the only way forward. As the night deepened, Ethan and Clara worked together to draft a response to the report. They knew that addressing the scandal required honesty and action. The task was daunting, but Clara's unwavering support provided Ethan with a glimmer of hope. The darkest hour had brought with it a profound sense of vulnerability and defeat, but it also marked a crucial turning point. Ethan's resolve was tested to its limits, but he knew that the path forward required confronting the crisis head-on. With Clara by his side, he began to see a faint glimmer of light in the midst of the overwhelming darkness. The journey ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges, but Ethan was determined to face them. The moments of despair had been a harsh reminder of the complexities of redemption, but they also served as a catalyst for deeper resolve. The darkest hour was a testament to the struggle and the resilience needed to forge a path toward true reconciliation and change. The first light of dawn filtered through the windows of the Clark mansion, casting long shadows over the grand hallways. Ethan Clark had barely slept the previous night, his mind racing with the weight of the decisions and the consequences of his recent actions. The journey had been long and arduous, but as he looked out at the sunrise, he felt a glimmer of hope. This could be the beginning of something new. Today was the day of the official unveiling of the Clark Foundation's Reparations Fund, a culmination of months of hard work, public scrutiny, and emotional strain. Ethan knew this moment would be pivotal, not just for him, but for everyone who had been affected by the past wrongs of his family. The press, the beneficiaries, and the public were all watching closely. The event was held in a large, elegantly decorated ballroom, filled with guests from various backgrounds. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, a mix of hope and skepticism. Clara was there, her presence a reminder of the journey they had undertaken together. Her support had been unwavering, and today was a testament to their shared commitment to making things right. As Ethan took the stage to address the crowd, his heart pounded with a mixture of anxiety and resolve. He glanced at Clara, who gave him a reassuring nod. It was a simple gesture, but it filled him with a renewed sense of purpose. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ethan began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Today marks a significant moment in our journey toward reconciliation and justice. The Clark Foundation has established this reparations fund not just to address past wrongs, but to build a future where such injustices are not repeated." The crowd listened intently as Ethan outlined the goals of the fund, detailing the initiatives that would support those who had been affected by the broken promises of the past. He spoke of transparency, accountability, and the commitment to make a tangible difference in the lives of those who had suffered. As Ethan spoke, he could see the impact of his words on the audience. There were nods of approval, murmurs of agreement, and some skeptical expressions slowly softening. It was clear that the road to redemption was still fraught with challenges, but this moment was a significant step toward healing. After the speech, Ethan and Clara mingled with the guests, engaging in conversations about the fund and its initiatives. The reactions were mixed. Some were supportive, others were still wary. It was a reminder that earning back trust was a process that required more than just words. It demanded consistent action and genuine commitment. Later in the day, as the event wound down, Ethan took a moment to reflect in a quiet corner of the mansion. The weight of the day's events was beginning to settle, and he felt a profound sense of relief and accomplishment. The journey had tested him in ways he hadn't anticipated, but it had also shown him the true meaning of redemption. Clara approached him, her expression one of quiet satisfaction. "You did well today, Ethan. It's a step in the right direction." Ethan nodded, feeling the exhaustion of the day but also a deep sense of fulfillment. "Thank you, Clara. I couldn't have done this without your support. This is just the beginning, though. We have a lot of work ahead of us to ensure that the fund truly makes a difference." Clara smiled, her eyes reflecting both pride and determination. "I believe in what we're doing. It's going to take time, but we're on the right path." As the sun began to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the mansion, Ethan felt a renewed sense of hope. The challenges ahead were still significant, but the steps taken toward redemption were meaningful. The road to healing was long, But with Clara's support and his family's newfound commitment, Ethan was more determined than ever to see it through. The mansion, once a symbol of privilege and past mistakes, now felt like a beacon of change and hope. Ethan knew that the journey of redemption was ongoing, but today marked a significant milestone. The foundation was set, and with every step forward, he felt a bit closer to truly making a positive impact. As the night fell and the stars began to appear, Ethan looked up at the sky, feeling a sense of peace. The past was never going to be erased, but the future held the promise of healing and renewal. With Clara by his side and the support of those who believed in their mission, Ethan was ready to face whatever came next, driven by the hope that, together, they could build a better, more just world. Click on the video being recommended to you now.